Aloha with us, Kevin Allen and Catherine Toth Fox. I thought I'd just mix it up a little bit. You know, I could tell that little low energy right now. We got to bring it back up.
What low energy? We haven't even started.
I'm low energy.
Okay.
I got to bring it back up. You are listening to the 38th episode of the Have Aloha Will Travel podcast. I am your co-host, Kevin Allen. With me, as always.
Oh, I'm Catherine Toth Fox. We are with Hawaii Magazine. And we have a lot to cover today. A lot.
We have a lot to talk about. So I think the mission of today's podcast is it's our third COVID-19 update.
Is it?
It is.
I feel like we always talk about COVID.
Well, we did do, this is kind of our fourth, because we did do that one of the three towns. I think that was 2 episodes ago, Haleiwa, Waikiki, and Kailua. But this is, I think, our third episode-focused COVID-19 update. But I think this one is really important because, as we will tell you, a lot has happened here in the islands. We had 355 new cases today.
I know, and 2 deaths. 355, that's a huge record because I think prior to that, we were in the low 200s, right? Or
yesterday we had 202 cases. So this is an exponential leap. And that's scary.
Yeah.
You know?
Remember when in the beginning of the shutdown back in March.
September. It feels like September.
I know. We had a handful of smattering of COVID cases. And then there was a stretch where we had 0 for like 3 or 4 days.
But you know what was funny to me was during that time when we only had like 15, 20 new cases, everyone was on like quarantine lockdown. Like people were really scared. But now we're getting like 355 a day, and it's like, it's way worse. But you know, we'll get into it later. But businesses are still open. I mean, the state is significantly on less lockdown than it was when we had less cases.
Right. Well, there's a lot of factors.
There's a ton of factors.
I mean, we can definitely. I mean, you know what's crazy to me is, you know, we've been hearing a lot about these outbreaks on the mainland, right? These sort of hot spots like Houston and in California, and of course New York City. And New York had instituted a 14-day mandatory quarantine for people coming into New York from certain hotspot cities. Yeah. We are one of them now.
We are one of them.
Hawaii is one of them.
I know. I remember for a little bit we were talking, there were talks about having a travel bubble with Japan. So I don't think that's going to happen anymore. 355 new cases a day is an insane number. And I'm hoping that's the top, but we'll see what happens. Anyways, this big rise in cases has led to another COVID-19 shutdown, which was announced earlier this month, August 3rd, perhaps.
I think it was like August 7th or 6th or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was announced, but then it went into effect a few days later on August 8th, I believe. And this shutdown is not like our first major shutdown that we had in April or March, where that one shut down everything. That was everything except for grocery stores and very essential businesses could stay open, but beaches were closed, parks were closed, restaurants were closed, boutiques were closed, everything was closed. This one's a little different. Did you want to talk about how it's different, Kat?
Yeah, sure. There's a lot of confusion about this, so I guess
my story that went up was incorrect in a few ways because it was very poorly messaged.
Yes, it was. And I think over the course of the next couple of days, there was a lot of misinformation that was put out by the government also. I think they weren't on the same page initially. So here's what it is right now. So this is only affecting Oʻahu, by the way, because we are the island experiencing all these outbreaks, and the neighbor islands are not on any kind of shutdown. So this is very specific to Oʻahu only. The parks and beaches, I mean, that's kind of the biggest thing, right? City parks, state parks, and all of the beaches on the island, which reopened in May, by the way, are now closed again. That includes their parking lots. However, you can walk across a park or a beach to access the ocean. So people can still swim, surf, paddle, frolic, whatever you do in the ocean, you're still able to do that. But once you get out of the water, and you can use restrooms and showers, those are still open, you have to leave the premises. But by closing off parking lots, I think that does limit the number of people who can go to places like Ala Beach Park, for example, right? Which is challenging to get to if you can't get into that parking lot. So that's the biggest one. In addition to that, there was some confusion about trails, hiking trails. In the original shutdown, if a hiking trail was located within a state park, so the trailhead was in a state park, like Aiea Loop Trail is a good example, that was obviously shut down. But other trails like Kulia'o Ridge Trail, for example, it's at the end of a road in a residential neighborhood, and those were open. So there was some confusion. The Honolulu Mayor, Kirk Caldwell, had initially said all hiking trails were closed. Then the hiking arm of DLNR had announced on Facebook that no, their trails were still open. And then there was another press release that came out by DLNR director saying, no, yes, closed. So as it is right now, all hiking trails are closed. Camping, playgrounds, botanical gardens, People's Open Market, which is kind of like a farmer's market, those have all been shut down. There's no outdoor team sports, which just started, by the way, restarted. Now they're all suspended. And your favorite place in the world, Kevin, you just got into skating and now skate parks are closed.
I had to go to a skate shop to buy something to loosen my trucks. I had to buy a little tool, and I was telling the guy, man, I picked the worst time to get into skating because, skate parks are a part of the, the city and county's parks system, so they're all closed. Which has been unfortunate for me. I've been having to get very creative, but honestly, that problem is very insignificant compared to everything else that's happening. But it sucks. Yeah. I hate it.
Sorry. My dog is also very upset about this.
Yeah, I know. Your dog is a known skater. It's tough again, but I think it was necessary because, man, especially the beaches, those got really packed. And there weren't a lot of masks being worn. I remember driving past Waimea Bay to go visit my parents up on the North Shore, and it was literally tarp to tarp, 200-300 people on the beach. That's actually probably an underestimate. It was probably around 400 to 500 people on that beach. None of them wearing masks. I mean, and I think a lot of people, have lost their jobs during this time, so there might, sometimes you just got to fill the time during the day. But yeah, I mean, I think it was kind of a necessary step as much as it really does suck.
Well, here's the strange part. So initially, there was a full-on shutdown, right, back in March, and then the states gradually reopened. And one of the first things they obviously did was let people exercise. So you could go to a beach or park to exercise because, people are stuck in the house and, it's all about like kind of helping folks with mental well-being and all that. Now, the weird part about this shutdown is that, like you mentioned, you went to a skate store. Businesses are still open.
Yep.
So you can go to a lot of indoor facilities, malls.
You can go to a gym.
You can go to a gym. You can get your hair cut. Schools are still scheduled to reopen. That's going to happen when this podcast comes out. So it's kind of interesting. There are some that are closed. Bowling alleys, for example, are closed. Arcades and mini golf facilities. Golf courses, though, are open.
Yeah.
Pools and tennis courts are closed, but theaters and museums are open. So there's just kind of like this weird, why are some things open, why are some things not? And then why are indoor facilities open when there's been research that shows, right, that the transmission of this virus is, it happens a lot faster or whatever, it's more prevalent in indoor areas. Yeah. I don't know, I'm confused.
It's very confusing. What was actually really interesting to me was that my apartment building has a small pool for residents to use, but that closed.
Oh.
But you know what kind of pissed me off is that I looked off my lanai to another apartment complex's pool, and that was still open. I saw people in there.
Oh, yeah. So for condos, residential condos, it's case by case. So
I guess so, yeah.
It's up to the residential condo to decide if they want to shut down their pools or not.
Yeah, and we have a lot of kapuna or, older folk in this building. So it totally makes sense to me. There's always a sign in my elevator. Our landlord hates people that don't wear masks, and he calls them out every single time.
Good.
Yeah, he like publicly calls them out in our elevator, and I really appreciate
Good.
it. But
What I, interesting about pools, I had inquired at the Kahala Hotel and Resort here on Oahu about whether or not they were open. They've been open, not this whole time. They were shut down in the beginning and they reopened, and they've been running a lot of Kama'aina specials. And I know friends that have staycation there, right?
yeah,
And they're doing a really good job. Like, I think the rooms are empty for so many days before they allow guests in, and they're pretty crazy about cleaning and sanitizing. So I emailed them, hey, are you guys open? Like, what's the deal? Because I thought this would be a good opportunity for a hotel, if they're still open, for people to escape to a hotel where they can play in a pool, or because not everybody has a pool. I don't have a pool.
Yeah.
I barely have like the backyard. So I inquired with them, but this mandate does include hotels, so they are not allowed to open their pools to guests.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're familiar with the Kahala, like they are on a beach in Kahala, but it's kind of set apart from the rest of the public accessible beaches. However, it is still considered a public beach. But I asked if their beaches, if they were allowing guests to lounge on the beach, and they said no, not at all.
Oh, really?
So, and the restaurants are all closed. I'm like, why would anybody go to a hotel now? You'd be like stuck in a hotel.
I know. Yeah, a staycation seemed really exciting when things weren't shut down and they were doing they were looking for Kama'aina to come and stay, but
right
now not so much. How have you been handling? I know you're a big hiker. You're a big water person. How have you been handling the shutdown?
Oh, I am slipping into
Madness.
clinical depression right now. It's hard because I have a kid. I think if I were single or married but didn't have kids, it wouldn't be as difficult because I could just come and go and jump in the ocean. But, I can't exactly surf with the 3-year-old.
Time to learn.
He has the attention span of you. So I can't, I have to fill my days with doing stuff that, keep him occupied. And hiking has been really good for us. So we were hiking, oh gosh, like maybe 3 to 4 times a week.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and he's pretty good. I mean, he's summited. We finished about 4 trails. Like he's actually gone to the top and back.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
He's good. So we could be out on a trail for like 2.5 hours, which is a really good time. He comes home, he takes a nap. But now, I mean,
what do
we can't even go to a park and let him run around. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. So yesterday or the other day, I took him to the aquarium. So the Waikiki Aquarium is still open.
Okay.
You need to buy your tickets online. You reserve an hour slot, so you can decide when you want to go. So we chose 3 to 4 p.m. and you show up with masks and whatever. So they limit the number of people, and that's part of this whole act with care, do not gather thing. Is that what the mayor was trying to say is they can't control the number of people in an open public space, but they can control the number of people that are going to go or who are going to go into a theater or whatever. It was interesting. We walked in, and most people had their masks on, but there was this one family. Oh, can I call them out? I wish I knew their names. Anyway, one family, as soon as they made that turn into the exhibits, they all pulled off their, 9 of them.
No way.
Off their masks. Yep. I'm like, what is there? I mean, and they're just touching everything, and they sort of ruined the experience for everyone else because then we were kind of rushing through all the exhibits.
Yeah.
And, I'm like, why?
Yeah, I know. It's frustrating. Even when I skate around, I'll skate with a mask until I know I'm in a place that has nobody else around me. Because I think even in the culture here, like wearing masks and like caring for other people, especially elderly people, is like a really important thing in Hawaii. So it's always really disheartening to see that kind of stuff. Although, man, I was in Chinatown a few days ago, and there were a ton of older people just not wearing masks.
Why were you in Chinatown? Did you go to APB? That stage?
Yeah, I had to go to APB to go pick up a little tool to help loosen the trucks of my skateboard. But yeah, there were a lot of, Chinatown was still pretty packed. All those open markets were open and bustling. And also there were definitely a lot of people not wearing masks. So that was a little scary for me. I was trying to run by. You know what's really scary? The scariest thing about the COVID-19 thing for me, as someone who is in the 20 to 39-year-old range, and this is anyone who is young and thinks they can like travel and not get COVID. My age demographic is the highest number of COVID cases in Hawaii. We're like 45%.
Yep.
And although we haven't had any deaths in that age range, we're still the highest amount of people who can get it and can get all the long-lasting effects that come with getting COVID-19. Reduced or bad lung problems for possibly the rest of your life. So, wear a mask. I feel like is just really the biggest.
Well, it's not only that. I mean, I remember when this first thing happened back in February, and I think even I thought that too, like, well, if I get it, it's not that big of a deal. I'm young and whatever.
Yeah.
I don't have any pre-conditions. But actually, you start to realize that you can infect other people. That's
Definitely.
The problem.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter if I catch it and I don't have any symptoms or I'm strong or whatever. It's that I can pass it to my post-mail carrier or my neighbor or
Yeah.
my parents, and
Exactly.
they can die from it. So
Yeah,
it's about just being more community-minded,
Yeah, 100%. Which is why I've been kind of going the extra mile to kind of quarantine myself, because I know that I have to do a home project with my dad, who is 64. So, it's just been kind of trying to play it safe. And again, I live with a ton of old people. My building has a lot of elderly, so it's like, it's got to stay safe for everyone else. The zoo's also still open though. You have an article on the website that I will link to in the show notes. It is, beaches and parks are closed, so what can you do on Oahu? And you have a few items listed here. Zoo is still open. Farmers market's still open. The water park is still open. Interesting stuff that's being kept open. I would not want to go to the water park right now. It's a little scary. Another part of this COVID-19 shutdown was that they are reinstating the inter-island travel quarantine, which, man, you want to talk about some bad messaging. You had to explain this to me multiple times, and then you had to write an article about it. So if you want to talk a little more about that?
Oh, yeah, it's confusing. So starting August 11, and I think it's running to the end of the month.
It is
but
running.
Also, there's been no confirmation on that either.
Yeah, it says it's running until August 31st, unless they decide to just keep it going.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means. So basically, if you are traveling from an island, from Oahu to any other island, essentially any other island, you must, upon arrival, quarantine for 14 days, consecutive days on that island.
Yeah.
However, if you are traveling from a neighbor island to Oahu, you don't need to quarantine. I find that to be strange. Why not just make everyone quarantine, but whatever.
Yeah.
If you are flying between islands that have this mandatory quarantine, like the Big Island to Maui, for example, you will also have to quarantine. So I think what they're trying to do is like limit the spread on the neighbor islands. Also, if you are military, so military's been exempt from this quarantine all this time, including their families, which is interesting.
Oh, really?
And so that's been, they are now forced to do a mandatory quarantine also when they travel. So.
Oh, I see. And this had been in effect right when things shut down, and then this was another one of those things that got lifted in June, and now is being reinstated, which makes our job very difficult. If I can just say, as an all-island travel publication, if you are seeing a lot of Oahu-centric content on our website, it's because we can't travel. We could, but then we're gonna quarantine for 2 weeks on Kauai to do one story. It doesn't make a lot of sense for us. But
no.
Yeah, this is definitely also a big problem for our airline industry, like our local airline industry kind of. A lot of local carriers, like Hawaiian, for example, has a big inter-island travel output component to it, and this is unfortunate for them. I must say.
Oh, it's going to hurt everybody. Because even with hotels, I mean, I was reading a story a couple days ago that the U.S. hotel demand won't likely see a full recovery until 2023.
I had heard
And
about
places like Hawaii are going to be harder hit than other places. Because, you know, like on the mainland, for example, you can road trip still. You can get in your car and drive somewhere. Here, you always have to get on a plane. And I think it's the air travel that's very, very scary to a lot of people. I mean, I wouldn't want to get on a plane and
Absolutely
read
not.
the research. Yeah, it's terrible.
I don't even want to go
Anyway,
out to eat anymore.
huh?
I don't even want to go out to a restaurant now, so I'm definitely not getting in an airport.
Speaking of which, we've had a bunch of new COVID cases that were associated with restaurants. So Liliha Bakery,
Yep.
which is like an iconic bakery in Honolulu, that closed for a couple days because somebody tested positive for COVID-19. So it's interesting because we were talking about this on one of our calls earlier, that it's getting closer and closer. Like in the very beginning, we like, does anybody know anybody with COVID, or
Yeah.
anybody know anybody who got tested? And now it's like, we actually do know people that have COVID. It's crazy.
It's such a small island, and like once these case numbers started to rise, I feel like it became very easy for that to be the case. Like I have a friend who works at HMSA, and they had a small outbreak in HMSA where they had 6 confirmed cases. And so that immediately became a thing of like, I texted my friend and was like, are you okay? Did you get tested and all that kind of stuff? And he's negative, so it's fine. A lot of them have been working from home. But yeah, you're right. It's starting to hit home in a weird way, you know? Fighting Eel shut down, right? Or they had one.
Also representing their airline.
Yeah, so it's probably not great to talk about this, but they had a case, didn't they, at their boutique in Chinatown?
Right. So they immediately shut down, and everybody got tested. And,
Yeah.
They're open. Liha Bakery opened this morning too.
Yeah. But it's just weird
Yeah.
because, you know, these are places that, like, I know a lot of people go to, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I personally know a lot of these people who go to these places. So, yeah, it's definitely, I mean, yeah, it's such a small island. I guess this was going to happen. But, man, remember when we had, like, 0 cases? Oh,
Oh, those are the days.
Those were
It's
the
funny to look back at old, like when Instagram or Facebook says like, oh, a picture from like 2 years ago, and it's like you and a bunch of friends like hanging out at the beach. I'm like, oh, it looks so strange.
no
you
one's
know?
wearing masks in this photo. Like, what's happening, you know?
I know.
And I remember for a little
Right.
bit, the state was going to kind of promote Hawaii. Like, they were going to really try to open back up tourism and be like, hey, we're like the safest place you can travel to. Remember that? That was like going to be our slogan for a little
yeah.
bit. And now that is.
Remember, we almost like we had that discussion as well.
Yeah, a little behind the scenes. Yeah, we definitely thought we were going to be the safest place to travel to, and we'd see this great boon in travelers. But, you know, I think that's how, you know, we just weren't taking COVID seriously enough. And this has been a real wake-up call for us, I think. It's been interesting just to, I don't know, once the shutdown happened again, just passively observing island life, it got quieter again, you know? Like, I feel like whenever these shutdowns get announced, it definitely gets quieter around, especially the beaches. Although I haven't gone to check out Waimea Bay, but my parents tell me it's completely empty, which I would hope.
Oh yeah, I was just looking at the surf cam today, and it was.
Oh, that's right. But you told me Laniakea was packed. If we're gonna talk about
packed.
Packed.
Oh my god,
It's
the
like
ocean.
half a foot.
I mean, the break was packed.
Yeah, well, that's a weird thing, right? Thank God surfers can still go out and paddle out.
See, I think that's kind of weird to me. I mean, not everybody is a water person. So you've eliminated all the things that land people do, like tennis or, running or hiking, but then surfers can go out. I mean, I know I'm a little biased, but to me, it's like, I think everyone should just suffer, you know? Why not?
Everyone should break the law, you know?
Why not? Well, I'm just saying, like, what's the difference between like 4 people going hiking or whatever,
and then 20 people going out
80
surfing.
people in Waikiki on a board sitting right next to each other talking without masks.
Yeah.
I don't understand how that's safer.
Well, that's the great part about them, you know, that's the only safe part about them shutting down the parking lots, is that if you don't know a lot about surf culture, parking lots are like the hot spot of where you hang out with people and, like, you know, talk and drink beers. So actually shutting down parking lots, I feel like, was the most effective thing they could do to stop surfers from gathering. It's funny that you mentioned, or I guess I mentioned breaking the law. I feel like the HPD presence has been much more active this time around.
Oh
Um,
yeah, they ramped up.
they ramped up. I see a lot of them, just pulling in and out of parks, making, I guess, doing sweeps or something. And I hear that they're not giving warnings anymore. They will just ticket you.
Hmm.
They will just fine you.
Hmm.
Um,
Actually, what's interesting, so HPD Chief Susan Ballard had announced that they were going to add 160 additional officers statewide, or island-wide, sorry, and working overtime. But now you can call an HPD
oh,
hotline
you
and
can
report
you
people.
can narc on people. That's so
I
funny to me,
know.
man.
That's Kai has that in his speed dial, my husband.
So do I.
723-3900. He's very excited about this.
I also am. I'm so ready. I'm waiting. I'm on the lookout,
I'm
man.
gonna narc on you because you're doing stuff that you're not supposed to do too, by the way.
But I'm not with anyone, there's no gathering. Man, I remember when the first shutdown happened, all these college kids living across from me had a huge party at their little studio, and I wish there was a hotline because I totally would have narked on them. I'll tattletale. I don't care. Snitches get stitches. I'll get all the stitches you want.
If
Um,
they can find you.
if they can find me. Well, I think that's a pretty encompassing COVID-19 update from your eyes and feet on Oahu.
Of course, by the time this airs, it might be totally different. I mean, we might have a full
Everything
statewide shutdown.
everything is changing so quickly. I think, yeah, I think if we start or if we continue to see really big exponential rises in cases, they'll probably do more shutdown orders. We may have to re-record this podcast. Who even knows? Like if over the weekend they close like all businesses, then we got to do this whole thing over again.
I know.
So we're hoping that's not going to happen because I mean a lot of businesses are not making it out of COVID-19, which I think is really sad. Like a lot of long-running local businesses are falling to COVID. So
Right.
yeah, it's tough out there, but we're all just trying to stay safe. Everyone, wear your masks if you're listening to this and you're living just wear your mask all the time. Don't even worry about it. It's not that bad. I saw a video of some guy running a 5K in a mask to prove that you can run a 5K in a mask and you will not die. So that's my political stance. Wear your mask. You can find more COVID-19 updates, what's open, what's closed, all that kind of stuff on hawaiimagazine.com, where you can also find all of our other stories that are a little less sad, a little less COVID-centric. We just had a great story go up today. It was our Kuleana rum piece from our latest issue. It's all about this Big Island rum, and it's a big farm-to-glass table experience that you can bookmark for your next visit to the islands when everything is open again and we can do fun stuff. You can catch us on social media if you want to see pretty pictures of Hawaii. Hit our Instagram at Hawaii Magazine. Our Facebook also is a great place to find all of our news stories, as well as this podcast. If you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, if you want to see the video version, we do a big Facebook Live video premiere that is saved in our archives. So you can always go check that out. We have fun new Hawaii Magazine products on our Shopify. Luggage tags, which you might not need for a little bit, but you should buy them now anyways. Please vote in our Reader's Choice Awards.
Oh, I thought you meant just in general. Like, please vote.
Oh, also just vote. I mean, it's like the one civil right we Americans have is to vote.
It's not okay, whatever.
It's an important one, but you should
It
also
is an important one.
you should also vote
Yes.
for our Reader's Choice Awards. Not as important, but still very important to us. And that is kind of your great place to give your input on what your favorite, hotel or beach or bar, food, drink in the Hawaiian Islands are, as well as specific islands. And there is a prize. Kat, what's the prize again?
Oh, a trip to Oahu.
A trip to Oahu.
Hopefully not when we are still in a COVID nightmare.
Yeah, a trip to Oahu, TBA, free airfare, free hotel. It's a great deal. I think that's all of our shout outs. The list gets longer and longer every episode of things we have to mention. The photo contest is still open. If you have a really great photo of Hawaii that you think is good enough to make it in our photo contest, it's a $5 entry per photo, and I'm doing a lot of the judging with that right now, the pre-judging, and we got some great entries.
You shouldn't say that. You shouldn't tell people that you're the one that's pre-judging everything. Do you want like free stuff? Is that what you're trying to go for?
So
Jeez.
if you want to win, just slip me an extra. My billing address is. Just kidding. That is the end of the episode. I'm sweating from all these shout outs. Kat, any final words? I didn't want to say last words. That's too depressing.
No.
Okay.
I'm all good.
All right. Well, everyone, stay safe. Have aloha. Don't travel yet, but you can travel pretty soon.
Oh.
Bye.